Republicans have leapt to Donald Trump's defence after the former US president was indicted by a New York grand jury. The indictment relates to alleged hush money paid to porn star Stormy Daniels during Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Trump, who's expected to face court next week on more than 30 charges, has responded by blaming the Democrats. In a statement, he said this is political persecution and election interference. Never before in our nation's history has this been done. And he's right there. This is the first time in US history a current or former president has faced criminal charges. But the development doesn't stop him taking another tilt at the White House. The former Vice President Mike Pence says the indictment is an outrage.
You can indict a ham sandwich, right? The threshold, the burden of proof is very low. I think the American people are going to look at this, see it as one more example of the criminalization of politics in this country.
Emma Doyle is the former Deputy Chief of Staff in Trump's White House and is now the Managing Director of Bondi Partners. She joins us now. Emma, how are Americans reacting to this news so far?
I think it's very shocking for people. I think this is something we haven't seen before, and it feels very, very politicized. I think especially because the charges are difficult to understand. This is not a clear-cut case. It has to do with campaign finance. It has to do with hush money, which is inherently a topic most people don't have personal experience with. But I think that is adding to the layers of confusion for people that really make this feel like, okay, it's black and white. This is politically motivated.
Emma, you have like a unique insight into this because you intricately know the workings of the Trump team and the behind the scenes that go along with Donald Trump. During your tenure there, was Stormy Daniels ever a topic of conversation?
Not between the president and I. She was certainly in the news. It was always one of many topics swirling around the president that frankly made it a lot harder for us to do our jobs at the White House because there was so much noise from outside. We really wanted to focus on delivering policy results for the American people, and things like the Stormy Daniels issue made it a lot harder to do that. But no, the president and I never discussed her or anything to do with the case at hand.
Well, what would Trump's team, though, be doing right now to try and get back on that front foot? They were caught by surprise with the timing of all of this. So what are they doing behind the scenes right now?
So I think they're still in fight mode, but they are looking for examples of things that Democrats have done that have not resulted in indictments, that they're looking at the level of crime in New York City and whether or not the district attorney is spending his time on something politically motivated as opposed to maybe where Republicans think his priorities should be. But I think that the team's very used to being in a fight. So I think they're circling the wagons even tighter and getting ready to dig in because an indictment coupled with an acquittal, I think, would be explosive.
Do you see this potentially as something that galvanises his supporters, this becoming the start of his re-election campaign?
I do. And I think that the more that he draws parallels to this concept that they're coming after me because they're coming after you, the Trump voter, they're coming after Republicans, that this is a Democrat-led attack on Republican voters with Donald Trump just as the proxy. I think the more he makes that argument, that does resonate with a lot of people, including some people who otherwise might not prefer Donald Trump as their primary candidate for the 2024 election.
Emma, does anything fluster him?
Not much that I've seen, honestly. I think he's pretty used to living in the public eye, and he's used to being on TV, so he's used to being photographed. So at the end of the day, a mugshot is just another picture.
Do you think that Donald Trump is going to be the Republican presidential candidate?
I think as of right now, he's definitely the strongest contender for that spot. But we've got a long ways to go between now and then.
Emma, do you see this in any way being negative for him?
I think a lot of that depends on how he continues to message it. If it becomes more about him being personally victimized as opposed to, they're coming after all of us together and the MAGA movement, I think it's possible for people to react differently to that narrative, that it's, that support will remain strong. I do think there's a risk with some moderate voters in the middle, though, that as other candidates come into the race, we'll have to see what kind of case they make and whether or not they can argue that less baggage means more votes.
You know, wherever you sit on the spectrum of politics, this is such huge news and there is so much going on behind the scenes right now and there'd be so much adrenaline flowing. Do you miss being there and, being a part of it all?
I still get to follow it pretty closely, so that fills a little bit of that gap. But yes, I think it's always, you always miss it a little bit, not being directly in the fight.
Emma, we appreciate your time. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much.